Leave with all this paint in the Jeep. We get to his pad or whatever, pull all the paint out. Yo, we had 130 cans. I was like, so we split them in half. He got half, I got half, and that was the biggest come up I ever did on paint. We burned the hell out of that spot. Like no one could ever rack paint or buy paint from that spot anymore. But that's how it was back then. It was like when you found a spot, you had to burn it.
I want to backtrack a little bit. Mural.
Yeah.
What is Mural up to now? What does Mural become? Can you please let us know what happens to Mural throughout the years?
Yeah, so over the years, Mural just like turned into a fabulous artist, designer, graphic designer. I know he was like teaching at, I forgot what the school was, but the Art Institute or something like that. I'm not sure if that's the one, but I know he was teaching at at some art institute. But he also decided to do this. He does this black book sessions. I remember when we'll talk about this later, but when I had my gallery, he started doing this thing where he started doing black book sessions at the park, where kids would bring their black books and hit up and do all this stuff, and he'd give awards and prizes and stuff like that. So he started getting really into the community with the young kids and getting them involved in like how to draw and how to take their graph, and expand on it, And so I think they're still doing that, or at least recently he was still doing that. So he's a dope dude, and I have a lot of respect for him.
Do you still speak to him, and what does he say about how far you've come along in graffiti?
I haven't spoken to him in a minute. I don't see him that often or whatever, but through friends and whatever, we kind of keep tabs on each other. But yeah, man, he was just like I said, he was an early influence on me and my work. You know what I'm saying?
As you mentioned, you join another legendary crew, STK. Can you tell us about STK's reputation back in those days?
Yeah, so back then, there was like the really big crews, right? There was like STN, K2S. There was on the east side, that's who we looked up to. But there was also UTI, LOD. There was, but really big was like WCA, Blue Crew, BC on the west side. Those were the big crews. But there was all these like other crews, like secondary crews that were like good, strong, but still on the come up. They still weren't at that level yet. And STK was definitely like in San Gabriel Valley. There was only like a few crews that were like at that level. It was like STK was one of them. SKA was another one. Still kicking ass. So those were a couple of the crews, like more SGV. And so it was more of a local thing. Like everyone in Alhambra, San Gabriel Valley knew who STK was. And so Sworn to Kill was what it stood for. And I remember, those guys were just, the funny thing was, like I said, I went to a whole different school. I went to a private school, and all these other dudes went to public school. Most of them went to either Alhambra High, or they went to Mark Keppel, and a lot of them ended up at Century. So they were all in the public school system, and I was not. So they'd see me around like on the walls, but they were like, "Who is this dude, man? Like what? Like they couldn't put a finger on how to get a hold of me or how to see me or catch me slipping or anything, because they didn't know anyone who knew me, and I didn't know anyone who knew them. Because I was just in a whole different ecosystem being at a private school. So that's why when we finally met the way we met, which was kind of weird, right away we already knew about each other. They knew who I was because I was just starting, and I already knew who they were because especially Mural was like such a dope writer at the time.